It's The Journey with drug and alcohol attorney Mark G. Astor.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of The Journey. Super excited to have as my guest Anthony Acompara. Hey, Anthony, how are you?
Hi, Mark. Great to see you.
Good to see you. So, Anthony does a lot of things, and he does them really well. He's the Faith Program Director at Banyan Treatment Center. He's a global goodwill ambassador. He's an author, and he's also the host of the Faith in Recovery show, which I think you had me on, right? Not that long ago.
Yes.
So,
it was the radio. You were on the radio, and it was a great show, and I'm still getting calls about it.
All right, I love it. Listen, I was very flattered when you agreed to come on my show, because I don't think I'm not as big a star as you. I haven't written my book yet, so I'm a little behind you. But I'm always flattered when people who work in industry are willing just to give up a little bit of their time to come and chat about what they do. And thank you very much for coming on.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure.
So there's a bunch of stuff that you do. So I don't know tell me what you spend the most time doing.
Probably eating pizza, as you might be able to.
Okay, I can work with that. That's good.
Yeah, I'm trying to cut down on that. But, I think the majority of my time is spent with our clients, whether it be either in groups, in those types of settings, or individually. I do faith counseling. I'm also the chaplain here at Banyan. And it's not even just with our clients, the faith and recovery clients. It's also, I met with two clients that were in our mental health program this morning. So it could be anyone who's, wants to meet from a spiritual perspective, wants to meet for faith counseling. But a lot of the time just goes into trying to encourage, trying to build up our clients, build up spiritual muscle, teach them about the Bible, teach them about God, teach them that God has a plan for them, and He hasn't abandoned them, and they have value and they have worth. And usually, when they hear that, it's almost like music to their ears. It's something that they haven't heard for a long time.
So let me ask you this: how long have you worked in the treatment industry?
I've been in this field for a little over 5 years now.
Okay, so what got you into it? Because everybody that I speak to, they all have their own sort of motivations, and most of them are honorable. Right. Occasionally, as you know, we have a few dishonorable people, but for the most part, most people that we work, that we all know, are people that are trying to help others.
Well, it's a good question, because I would have never been in this field had I not gone through a lot of the things that our clients go through. Depression, anxiety, at major levels, major depression, major anxiety, addiction to alcohol, to Xanax, to gambling. So I kind of went through all of this stuff. It was interesting how it happened, because I was in the security industry. I was a director of corporate security. I worked in Manhattan, California. I was a private investigator. I never was involved with this field at all. And then I was the director of investigations with the Broward Crime Commission. And after I was going through all the stuff I went through, I wanted to implement ministries. And one of them was a mental health ministry, an addiction ministry, a homeless ministry. And I became the director of that. And that's how I got introduced to a lot of people in this industry, the recovery industry and the mental health industry. And I ended up getting ordained as a chaplain. And I became a chaplain, and I was with the recovery place in Fort Lauderdale. And then that closed about 3 years ago, and I ended up at Banyan 3.5 years ago.
So did you work on Wall Street?
No, it was more security, like physical security.
Oh,
like
okay.
Alarms and that type of thing, theft, employee theft, embezzlement, fraud, that type of stuff.
Okay, all right. When you said security, I'm thinking Wall Street, but. Okay, that's it. Wow. See, I know that we didn't spend a lot of time chatting before the show. So for the people that are watching, I'm learning some of the stuff about you for the first time. I love it. It's great stuff. So how long have you been at Banyan?
I've been at Banyan since October 2015, and that whole situation is just kind of an amazing story too, because the suite that I'm in right now, it's in Pompano Beach. It was empty. The people had left. So it was a vacant suite. The owner of Banyan, Joe Tuttle, and Eric Oakes, who's our COO now, at the time he was the executive director, they wanted a faith program. They were interested in it, but it never would work out. Nothing ever just fell into place. And the amazing thing about it was, as they were talking about it, I ended up sending messages out on LinkedIn to just random people. I didn't even know who Eric was, but he was on my LinkedIn profile. And I basically said, this place is closing, the recovery place, and this is what I do. And I told them a little bit about the programming, and they were blown away of the timing of it. It was God's perfect timing. And the next day they brought me in and interviewed me, and the day after that they hired me. So it was just absolute perfect timing how this fell into place.
So let me ask you a question. Did you feel that the the religious component, I guess maybe more the spiritual component, was important to your recovery?
Absolutely. I mean, I've gone to 12-step meetings, and I used to go to GA meetings, Gamblers Anonymous, but I ended up getting the faith component, the Bible aspect. That's what really clicked with me. I was in a faith-based program myself. That was the last program I was ever in Naples, Florida. And that's when everything was like a light bulb went on, and it just, everything clicked. And I started to pursue it, and I started to pursue God, and I wanted to learn more and more about him. So I went really more from the faith aspect than more the 12 steps. So
let me ask you. So, look, I grew up in a very, what I would consider a conservative religious family, and I think I got away from that, just my own personal, designs of how I wanted to live my life. So what do you do when you get somebody who comes into treatment and they're like, listen, I'm not buying any of that religious, spiritual stuff. Mm-hmm. So, you'll have to come up with something else for me that's going to help to keep me in recovery.
It's a great question, because the majority of the clients say exactly that. They'll say, I grew up in the church. Maybe it was in the Northeast and they were Catholic. Maybe they were in the Bible Belt and they were Southern Baptist. But they said that, they felt a lot of guilt. They felt a lot of condemnation, and they walked away from it as soon as they could. And I did the same thing, because I was kind of made to go to church when I was younger. I had to be an altar boy. I had to go to Catholic school. I hated it. I didn't want anything to do with it. So I rebelled against it because I was kind of forced into it. The good thing about here with Banyan, with this program, it's an optional program. No one's forcing anyone or even really asking them to come into it. They either come here specifically because they want a faith-based program, or when they're here, they usually see a change in the people that they've known that are in the program, and usually the other clients will tell them about it, and they'll come up, like a girl yesterday she was here. She tried out the program. She's been here about 5 days, and now she loves it. She wants to come in the program, so she's in the program. So we're really not selling them on it. We're just, we're just explaining to them that it's not a fire, brimstone, condemnation, guilt type of program, because nobody responds well to that. They run from that. So it's really more building them up, getting them out of guilt and shame, getting them out, overcoming guilt and shame, those types of things, focusing on forgiveness, focusing on anger. And so that's kind of the way we approach it here.
Right. So when I read about you being a global goodwill ambassador, tell me what that's about.
That's an international organization, and basically they look for people that have got involved heavily into volunteer work and have done some things for people, helping people, encouraging people, that type of thing. And there's a board with it. It's the GGA, Global Goodwill Ambassador Board. And these are people from all over the world that get selected to it. I think there's about 100 and something in the U.S. But there's people, it's great because I connect with people from, India and Indonesia and Egypt and just all over the world, people that were nominated and selected to be a global goodwill ambassador. It's basically a humanitarian. That's what the program is.
So how much time do you spend working on that?
It's more different groups and boards. Like I'm on the board of mental health and addiction. So when there's people that have questions or some of the other ambassadors, they'll post things in these groups, and you respond to them and you provide information and things like that. So it's not a lot of time, but it's it's basically all geared towards helping people throughout the world.
Right. So I know that you did you just finish writing a book? I think you did, right?
I wrote two. One of them is a devotional book. The second one came out last August. It's called Overcoming Emotional Obstacles Through Faith. And it's basically a testimonial book of things that I've gone through, some of the things I mentioned, and ways to approach overcoming that through faith or through biblical principles. So that's what that book is.
So what was the first book?
The first one was called Impact Devotional Series. It was basically a devotional book. It was kind of just to encourage people. I actually didn't even know I was writing a book when I was writing it, because I was just typing up things to encourage our clients at the recovery place when I was there. So there'd be a little prayer, there'd be a little verse, and there'd be a little topic. Maybe it was anger, maybe it was shame. And I would just write a little thing about it, a little paragraph. And then I started printing them out and emailing them out. And then somebody said to me, you should try to get it published. And I did. And then I wrote this second one, Overcoming Emotional Obstacles, knowing that I was writing a book. But that's more of a testimonial book.
Wow. Okay. So we say, is that a testimony from people that you've worked with?
It's more of things that I've gone through, like personal stories of things that I've dealt with and I've gone through and applied, faith to overcome those. They sell it at churches like Calvary Chapel and Fort Lauderdale. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. But I get a lot of positive feedback, especially from parents that say, my son's never read a book in his life and he goes to sleep reading this every night. Thank you so much. And he's changing and he's applying some of these principles that you have in here. That's amazing. Always nice when you get emails and things like that from people.
I think that's probably one of the reasons that that we do what we do, right? Is to feel good about getting out of bed every morning and fighting the good fight.
Absolutely. My job as director of corporate security, it was a lot more money and titles and budgets and all this type of stuff and traveling all over the world. But it was basically to either have people fired or arrested or both. And so it's kind of wears on you after a while. And this is kind of the exact opposite. This is you're speaking into people's life. You're trying to build people up. You're trying to encourage people, trying to save lives rather than, sometimes destroying them. So it's an amazing thing.
How'd you get into the whole corporate security thing? Because I never would have guessed that was your background.
I started at Marshall's department store in Connecticut catching shoplifters. I was a store detective. I fell in love with it. It was like the coolest job ever. And I got promoted. I moved to New York. I was a district manager, a security manager, a regional director. And then I was director of corporate security for a California-based company. I had about 220 stores. Wow. And basically what we did was investigate theft, employee theft, refund fraud, embezzlement, all that type of stuff, cash theft. And that's basically what the job was for the most part.
Wow. So, I mean, in a big company that's, got, well, you said how many stores? 200?
There was about 220 at the time I left, yeah.
I mean, how much theft is going on? A lot?
It's a lot of internal theft. And usually about 60 or 70% of the losses for any corporation is from their own employees. And it's hard to believe at first, but, when I was out in the field and I was a regional and I was dealing with smaller thefts in the stores, girls, giving stuff out to their friends and things. And we always thought, corporate, that, they have it made and they have all this, money and they're getting these huge salaries. So I thought there wouldn't be that much theft going on. It was actually worse than it was in the stores. I mean, greed sets in, and no matter how much money you're making or whatever your position is, you always want more. So, and you have more influence and more power, more opportunities to defraud the companies. So whatever it is, the first case I had was the vice president of IT. It was our vice president of IT. It was a huge case. And so you just never know. It's like you always want more and more and more. You don't get satisfied sometimes, no matter how much money people are making. And it was an interesting thing to go from the store level and the theft and things that were going on there to the corporate level, and how much more comprehensive it was, and how much more of losses there were to the company.
Yeah, my father was in retail electronics when we were growing up as a kid. He built a business out of nothing and ended up with 12 stores, and the amount of thieving that was going on was just it was relentless. I mean, that was way back when, before one of these things could make a lot of noise. It was the big thing back then was the Sony Walkman. I mean, that was revolutionary for us. But that's when people actually went out and bought a hi-fi with speakers and an amplifier and a cassette deck and a record player and all that stuff. I mean, we had all the stuff alarmed, and and if it wasn't going out of the front door of the store, it was going out of the back door of the store, because we had you have a stock room, right? And stuff was going out. I mean, the stuff was the police. My dad would get calls in the middle of the night. The police had caught one of the members of staff going back into the store at 2 a.m, and selling selling Sony Walkmans out of the back of the store to his buddies for $50
Right.
a piece, half price. So
Yeah.
crazy stuff. So what do you think caused you to have a substance use issue? Where do you think that stemmed from?
It
Stress?
stemmed from a miserable existence. When I left that position, I had tremendous unforgiveness in my heart towards some people in California, in particular my boss. I found out some things that were going on, and that just made it even worse. And I stopped sleeping for about a month and a half because I was filled with anger and rage and unforgiveness. And that's really what started my whole downward spiral. It could all be, it could all go back right to the unforgiveness and the resentment. That's why we focus on that so much with our clients here, because that's almost part of the package of addiction. You're having so many conflicts with people. There's a lot of unforgiveness, and you're getting hurt by people, and you're hurting people. So that's really what started it. And so when you're in so much pain emotionally, and you have so much hatred and anger and all of this stuff going on, you look for a way out. You look for an escape. And to sit in a casino for 12, 14 hours a day, every other day, seemed like a great idea to me because it could distract me from my miserable existence. And I had a lot of money from stock at one point. It was like a perfect storm. I had all this money, and I was looking for ways to escape reality. And that was the biggest problem, was the alcohol and was the gambling. I couldn't stop. And so that was kind of how that happened. And the interesting thing is, I used to go to Vegas every once in a while. I lived in California. It was a short flight, and it was never a problem.
Yep.
But then it was a problem in Florida at the Hard Rock because my situation changed.
So how'd you eventually get into recovery?
It really had to do with that last place that I was in. It had to do with really pressing into God's word and really starting to apply the principles that I was reading about over and over. It wasn't just the fact of reading them or hearing a sermon. A lot of people, that's their walk with God. That's what it was with me for 35 years. You go to church. I was a CEO Christian, Christmas, Easter only. So Easter's coming up, so I would have been there. And, you go, or if you go on a Sunday, it's like, that's it. The priest, the pastor will take care of the rest. I told him what my problems were, and you just go back to your regular life on Monday. So it's a lot different now because I actually try to apply. It's not perfect, but I try to apply these for forgiveness, for example. The way I finally was able to forgive, I read a verse in Romans, and the first part of it said, "Do not repay evil with more evil." And that got my attention because that's all I thought about for 7 years with the situation that I was in. You get consumed with these thoughts and with anger and revenge. And so that got my attention. I went on, I read it more and more, and it started to sink in. And then I got to the point where, well, I know what God's will is. That's to forgive. My will is to not forgive, and it's destroying me. And I had to make a decision to go one way or the other. And I chose to go with God's will and forgive.
Well, that's great. So how many different locations does Banyan have?
Banyan has, I believe it's 11 locations. I mean, we're opening them up so fast. It's actually incredible. There's 2 in Chicago. There's 1 in Boston. There's two in Pennsylvania. We have a detox in Stuart, Florida, and we have a detox in Boca, Florida. And then we have the Pompano location, which was the original Banyan. And then we also have behavioral health of Palm Beaches that we bought. And Seaside. So a lot of locations, amazing people. It all starts from the top. Joe Tuttle, our owner, he's the single owner of Banyan. Like I said, he wanted this faith program. He's an amazing guy. He's a guy that everybody's just kind of drawn to. He lets people do their thing. He hires good people, and it just kind of flows down from there. Eric Oaks, same thing, our COO. It doesn't happen by accident to have this type of growth. When I came here 3.5 years ago, there was the Pompano location. That was it. It wasn't even the whole location because we have rented out different places in here. Now it's the Pompano location and all those other ones, I just mentioned. And that's in 3.5 years.
That's a lot of growth. So sounds like you guys are probably doing something right.
Yes, absolutely.
So do you get to work with the clients at the different locations?
I go to our Stewart location on Fridays and Boca, and I do groups there, spirituality groups. also meet with some of the clients there. So and then they usually end up coming here too. So eventually they end up coming to Pompano, even if they're in Stewart or Boca. So I get to meet them before they even get here, which is nice because I already have kind of a rapport with some of them. And so those are pretty much the only other ones that I go to. But the way we have it set up is if somebody's looking for faith programming, instead of having, faith programs in all these other locations, they come here because we're going to fly them in, they would fly in here anyway. So they would just come here rather than us having all these different locations that may not be exactly the way we're doing it here. So it works out well for the clients that are seeking faith programming.
That's great.
They'll just come in. Yeah.
Let's talk about your podcast, because this to me is like probably my favorite thing to do during the week. It's the one thing I look forward to doing. And so tell us about that, because I know you had me on as a guest, and that was a lot of fun. So tell us a little bit about your podcast and what you've been doing with it.
The way it started was I was at a conference in Orlando. It was a National Faith Symposium, and I ended up getting interviewed from a radio station up there, and we ended up connecting and things. And I met the GM and that type of thing. So I ended up being the host of the show, and we called it Faith and Recovery. And it aired in Atlanta and Orlando markets. But it was also online and on social media and things like that. So that's kind of how it started. Now we actually moved it to the Faith and Recovery Suite. So it's called the Faith and Recovery Show, and it's filmed not in the radio station in Miami. It used to be in Miami. It's actually here. So we've had Pastor Conrad from Fusion Church was a guest, and we had our chiropractor, Dr. J, was also a guest on here. And we have our clinical director, Ryan, is going to be on next week. So we've only done 3 here. We used to do it in the studio in Miami. That was part of Salem Media Group. Yeah.
Right. I bet you enjoy doing that, huh?
I love it. I mean, I made the mistake of having my boss, Eric Oakes, on the second time, and it wasn't really that good because I didn't know what I was doing. But I kind of got the hang of it after a while. It took a few weeks, but I tell you, it is. It's a lot of fun. It's a great way to get information out there and have some great guests on and let people know what they're doing and, in their lives. So it's a cool thing.
I love it. So where'd you grow up? Tell us a little bit about your background.
I'm from Connecticut, Hamden, Connecticut, which is just outside of New Haven, Connecticut, which is one of the best pizza places in the world, they say, Worcester Street. So it's always like 1 or 2 of the best pizzas, and it'll be like someplace from Brooklyn.
You keep talking about pizza like this. I'm starting to get hungry. I only just finished lunch.
Well, I got to show you this. This is funny. Our old clinical director, I talk about it so much, he gave me this. This is my mouse pad.
Oh, forget about it. I couldn't have that in front of me. I never get any work done. I'll be constantly running to the refrigerator.
Yeah, I know. I wonder why I'm having such a hard time losing weight here. But yeah, I grew up in Connecticut, and like I said, I started in the security field up there, and then I moved to New York. I was on Long Island for a few years, loved it there, had a great time out there. Ended up in Manhattan, worked there for about 6 years in the security field, and then I ended up getting promoted a few times, and I moved out to California. I was the director of corporate security, and then it just kind of went downhill for about 6 years.
So what was family life like growing up in Connecticut?
Family was good. I tell you, today I just posted it on Facebook. It's my father's birthday. He passed away in 1998. And I woke up and that was just the first thing I thought of, and so I posted that. But he was just an amazing guy. People just loved him. I don't think he had an enemy out there. People were just drawn to him. He was just an incredible guy. And I have 3 sisters and a brother. My brother's still in Connecticut. But, it was a good upbringing. It wasn't perfect, but I never realized. I always thought we kind of had a lot of money because we had a built-in pool and we had a big house, but we really didn't. And I didn't realize that till way later on. My father took some big chances. He opened up he was in construction, and he opened up an excavating company on his own. Later he was probably about 50-something years old, and he did that. So they did a lot. My parents really went all out to make us have a great life and a great lifestyle and things like that. And we were sent to, Catholic school and all that type of stuff. But there was a lot of arguing that went on, but I kind of missed it. It was fun. It was a fun upbringing.
Well, is your mom still around?
My mother passed away in 2012.
Yeah.
So she passed away in 2012. It's amazing because the difference, when I was in New York City when my father passed away, I didn't have a relationship with God. I wouldn't even be considered a Christian or anything. And I couldn't mention that, talk about it, anything. It was so different for probably about 5 or 6 years. It was just, I was devastated. And then when my mother passed away, it was bad that day, but I dealt with it so much. It was such a different way of approaching that, and knowing that I'm going to see her again, and knowing that she's in perfect peace and she's not in pain anymore. What a difference, just because of the amount of faith in between that time period.
Yeah, I mean, I lost my dad, was it 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, and think about him.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think about him every day. I didn't realize how much I learned from him until he was gone. And,
Yes.
well, there are some days, as I deal with the trials and tribulations of running a business, that I'm like, I wish I could sort of, tap into his wealth of knowledge, because he's, my father left school at 14, my mother at 16. So, I mean, anything they ever obtained in life, they did it just really through hard work and determination. And so sometimes I say, I wish I could just sort of tap into that knowledge, because, to just to be able to go back in time, but you don't realize how much you learn until they're gone. So I understand how that goes. So do you do any other stuff, outside of Banyan in terms of treatment and working with individuals?
I speak at different locations, when asked. Sometimes what I'll do is I talk about my book, and go over different chapters and things like that. And so I end up doing that. So I'm involved with Calvary Chapel. They're involved with us a lot here. They do a Bible study for us. They do our baptisms. So that's, I'm involved with them a lot too. But, it's just, I got my dog, Luke the dog. He's amazing. He's a blue-nosed pit bull. He's the best dog ever. And he's actually a certified therapy dog. And he comes to, the clients love him. And he's here probably once or twice a week. And I bring him to Boca and Stewart when I do groups up there. So he's a big part of our staff. He's on our website and everything.
Audra and I were talking about that, because Audra has a dog. She's a Belgian Malinois. And we said, wow, maybe we should make her part of the story. She's dogs. Dogs especially they're just such amazing creatures. They're so intuitive, amazing.
Yes.
So
well, anytime someone cries, it's happened 5 times in Boca, in the group. It's because he's sitting there next to me, and somebody will be sharing something and they'll get really emotional. He goes up and hugs them. Like, he doesn't jump on them. He just actually hugs them, and then he'll sit right next to them until they stop crying. He does it every time. It's amazing. He's so, like you said, in tune to people's emotions. And I don't even like raising my voice. Now, this is a pit bull, and he's like a little baby. I don't even want to raise my voice to him when he does something, stupid, because he looks like he's going to cry. So they are just so incredibly sensitive.
Yeah, I think that dogs are a little bit like animals in a certain way. If you raise a dog with love, it'll be a loving dog, right? I mean, so Stella, Audra's dog, is a Belgian Malinois, and it's interesting. She's very territorial. She's bitten my mother.
Wow.
She's bitten my mother twice. Yeah. She don't like any other women coming in the house. She's very territorial. But with us, she's like she wants to just hug and kiss. And that's really because even though instinctively she's like a German Shepherd, she's a work dog. She's really been loved since she was a puppy. So other when she feels threatened, she's a big softie. So it's amazing. So
yeah.
I'm so glad you came on the show. Your book? How do people find out get the book? How would they do that?
The book is on Amazon.com. You could just put my name in there, Anthony Acampora. It's called Overcoming Emotional Obstacles Through Faith, and it's on Amazon. It's on BarnesandNoble.com. It's just got a 5-star rating on Goodreads. So that's that. And as far as with Banyan. We have a big conference coming up. That's our PR person would probably get mad if I didn't say anything. And thanks, you're going. You signed up.
Yeah, that's the one in May, right? You've got. I think you've got. You've got Darren Prince, Brandon Novak. I've had both of them on the show. And who else is coming? You've got a couple other really good speakers, right?
Brandon Novak, Ryan Hampton, Dr. David who's our doctor at Behavioral Health of Palm Beaches, and then we have Dr. Tammy Malloy, who's our chief person at Banyan Behavioral Health of Palm Beaches. So those are the speakers. Brandon's amazing, and all of them are going to be amazing. But it's May 17th, 2019. It's coming up. It's 11 to 3, and you could just go online to register. It's at the Doubletree Hilton in Deerfield Beach. So it's Friday, May 17th.
Anthony, is there a link? Is there a link on that thing? Maybe you could just hold up the camera so we can see it. Where would they go to sign up for this?
Let's see. If you go to it's a Star, and then it's Banyan Treatment Center. If you go Star Networking, Banyan Treatment Center. It's not on here, but that's what it is.
Okay, and I think the Jay's also going to put a link. A link down below, so folks who are watching the show can sign up. But I would encourage people. I would encourage people to sign up for this thing. Phenomenal guests.
Allison, our PR director, and Ann, and they worked really hard on this, and they're doing a great job with that. So we already have over 100 people that registered. So it's gonna be a big event, and these speakers are incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we're excited. It's one of the things we're excited about going to. We can't wait.
Absolutely, and then the program faithinrecovery.com. faithinrecovery.com. That's the faith program at Banyan Treatment Center. My number is 201-538-2754, 201-538-2754, BanyanTreatmentCenter.com or faithinrecovery.com. Check out our websites, and there's a ton of information on there. And take that leap of faith and give us a call if you have someone that's struggling and wants to get involved with a faith approach to our faith recovery program.
I love it. Anthony, hold on a second. I'm going to sign up, but don't go anywhere just yet, okay?
Okay.
And for the folks who are watching the show, thank you for tuning in. If you want to get some information about what we do over at Drug and Alcohol Attorneys, you can find us online, drugandalcoholattorneys.com. You can email me, Mark, with a K, at drugandalcoholattorneys.com, or you can call us, 561-419-6095. You can find the show on our Facebook page, on our website, on YouTube. We're also on Instagram, Twitter. The show, if it's not already, will be on, I believe it's iHeartRadio. So, and if you still can't find us, you just Google Mark G. Astor. You should be able to find me. So, with that said, until the next show. Oh, and by the way, if you have any questions for either me or Anthony, please post them. Really important so that we can answer your questions. And until the next time, thank you very much for tuning in.